Hi everyone, so I should be live now. I can never tell, but I think I am. Welcome back to On the Couch with Emma. Today I'm really excited. We have Aisling Arnold from Arnold's Hotel. I've known Aisling for a very long time and I've watched in awe as she runs that hotel, makes it stand out, makes it brilliant, and everything she does outside of that as well. So I'm really excited to have her on. I'm going to be asking her the usual questions, and there she is. I'm going to just pop her on here. Okay, that should be a notification now. She should be popping on. Everybody that comes on to these lives with me are like, I've never done Instagram live before, and the truth is, I've actually never done it before. I only ever did it. I only ever did it. Sorry, I'm just inviting her here. I only ever did it for the first time when I started these. So uh, I am all new to this as well, but you never really know how to do something until you just go ahead and do it. That's the way I kind of see it. 1 second. I'm all about done is better than perfect and trying to perfect it and make sure I can do it right and all that good stuff. Hi, Ashley.
Oh, hi Emma. How are you?
Good. I'm just talking about how I never actually did this before I did this for the first time. You know, I never actually went live on Instagram, hence why half the time you can only see my chin, and half the time I get it wrong. But anyway, we're here. What's the crack?
Have a clue what I was doing there at all. So I was hitting buttons and just on the hope that you were going to wave a wand and that would happen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, we're here. We got on it, so it's all good. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be on with me. I'm excited to. I was actually just saying, how many years is it since we first met? Seven?
I
Was it seven?
think it was 2013 maybe. So
Yeah,
we were
crazy.
young and foolish then, Emma.
I know, I know.
But up,
I feel like it was 5 minutes ago, but also I feel like it was a long time ago as well. Like it just flew, didn't it?
yeah, it really.
It's crazy.
I suppose we just learned so much, and for both of us, that kind of I suppose was a starting block for us both, and we kind of I suppose grew from there, and we got a lot of good friendships out of that as well. So I suppose for people
Yeah.
that was the uh, young entrepreneur of the year that we did together. So it was brilliant. It was a really really good um, time for the two of us, I think.
Yeah, definitely, definitely a big learning. It kind of pushed you like way above outside your comfort zone to kind of think about what you were actually doing. Because I know for me anyway, I just kind of went into it and was like, right, let's just do this, and then never really thought about a plan or a business plan or any of that kind of stuff. So it was good to take the time out, which is, I suppose, what we all need. But anyway, we'll get into it. So tell me about Arnold's Hotel, even just in 60 seconds, if you can tell me kind of what they do about them.
Yeah, of course. So the hotel is fourth generation, family owned and operated. This year we are proudly celebrating 98 years. Actually, in fact, I've been saying 98 all year, and sure we're nearly at the end of the year, so it's going to be 99 come January. I suppose to the hotel, to the rear of the hotel, we have the Dunfanaghy riding stables, and we use that for I suppose trail rides coming into Ireland, and that they are actually domestically, from down the country, and that would be people coming to spend a week long to, I suppose, explore the great outdoors of what Donegal has to offer. Then it would also be utilised then by locals and by visitors coming to the area who want to go out, depending on their experience, whether or not they want to go out for a day or half day, an hour, they need a lesson. It's very popular with kids because they get to do a lead out, and I think that's very exciting for them. The hotel also comprises then of Cafe Arnolds, which I opened in 2013. And that's a cafe and gourmet burger bar. And at the minute, obviously, that's just, it would normally operate 7 days a week throughout the year. But obviously, just at the minute with the current restrictions, we're down to takeaway only. And then obviously the hotel itself, which comprises of 31 bedrooms, two restaurants and a bar. And I suppose we're kind of We use it's a small premises, but we use it for small events and intimate weddings. And actually, we had our first and last wedding of 2020 there last Saturday under all the guidelines, and it was absolutely beautiful. Very small, 25 in line with the guidelines, and it was just absolutely beautiful, really intimate, and it was lovely.
Lovely, very nice. So actually, for all the years I've known you, I didn't know there was horse stables out the back, and I actually didn't know you held weddings. So there you go, you learned something new. Powder and Pout is just saying hello to us here. She says you look fab, Aisling.
Oh,
But funnily enough, that is from Ireland's Best Young Entrepreneur. That's how we know Powder and Pout as well. So, the connections are always there. Um, that's amazing, Ashley, and that's a lot of stuff going on in the one place, and especially for yourself. So, tell me a little bit about how you guys built that business up and like your marketing and stuff like that. Like, what could we learn from that, or what could people learn from that?
of course. Well, I suppose I came back to the business over 8 years ago, and in terms of for me, I suppose the key thing was kind of building a team around me. They always say that you should employ people that are better than you in different areas or even in some of the same areas. And I think that's sometimes, something that we're all afraid of. We don't want somebody coming in there that's going to outshine us or make us look silly, I suppose. But I think that was one of the greatest things that I ever done was employing people that had greater expertise than me in certain areas. Once I kind of I suppose built the team around me. I was very lucky, like the foundations obviously were there, because we've been in business for so long in terms of the name and, a lot of people would know Arnold's. But for me then, I suppose I very much had my own strategy and my own plan as to what I wanted to do. And for me to kind of get to that, it took an awful lot of hard work, commitment, tears. And with the help of my team and the strategy that I developed and kind of I suppose sticking to the business plan. And I think that was kind of something that really got me focused possibly when I got into the young entrepreneur was to to get my business plan a little bit my strategy I suppose tied down a little better and to kind of have that vision and the goal and what I wanted and to kind of follow that. So I suppose, I was lucky in terms of the foundations already been there. However, I was trying to bring different dynamics and, kind of change the kind of, I suppose, the clientele coming to the hotel and be able to attract new audiences. So I had a huge job in that and something that I had to learn. But as I say, with the help of my team, I did that. Marketing, I'm laughing, like marketing, marketing is not my strength. I came from, I qualified as chartered accountant, so I'm always in numbers mode, so I'm arguing about spending money and certain things. So I had to very much learn on my feet with that. I suppose for hotel in terms of marketing can be quite specific in terms of there's a couple of different areas you want to be looking at revenue management there in terms of your rooms, and making sure you're getting your occupancy in terms of your rates and in terms of filling your rooms. And then, you have to go down digital marketing way, which obviously includes your online presence in terms of website and social media. And then after that, then we try to have a physical presence in places as well and incorporate your brand in that. So it's an awful lot. I had none. So at the time, I suppose my mum had looked after the marketing for a great number of years and she was away for ahead of her time. She had Arnolds on Facebook way before I think many people knew what Facebook was. So I was very lucky that I had my mum there in the background with that first of all, but then second of all, I took on another great girl, Kathy Cowan, good friend of mine, and she basically had been in Dublin and had worked in PR. So she was a great helping hand at the beginning to kind of get me started off and to kind of support me. So we just kind of continue our strategy now, and I think keeping the name out there is very, very important with the business, and kind of in particular when we're closed now, I think it's just important to remind people that we're still there, we're still in the background, we're looking forward to seeing our customers, and I suppose just keeping the name out there is really important.
Yeah, definitely. And I think me and you were saying that just on a conversation we are having before this, that like it's just constant. Like you literally cannot stop. It's like you always need to be going and doing something. But when you see the results, I think that's when you're like, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, and like I think completely right in hiring people who are better than you, and I know it is hard a lot of the time. But even with the marketing thing, like you're just saying, that's not my strong point, so that's not something I'm going to do. And the numbers isn't my strong point. Like I hate that bit, so other people do that for me. But I think it's having the lack of ego to say, you know what, I'm not good at that. I'm going to give that to you, and then you see it flourish, and then you get to like do the things that you're really good at, and make it work that way as well. Completely. There's just a little question here, so I'm just going to.
Yeah.
SJ McHugh. Hi, Aisling. Just want to say congrats on the maintenance and development of the business since you left Dublin. It's great to see you still getting through these tough times. Sarah Jane from D&T
Ah,
Days.
mine too. Ah, that's lovely.
Yeah, very nice. So people are watching. This is great. It's because of you, actually, nothing to do with me. Um, okay, great. Well, so through all of that, right? So you're building the business, you're doing all that stuff, but there's obviously tough times. So what kind of, you said tears yourself. What kind of helps you get through those tough times?
Um, I suppose, honestly, in life. I think we all know from on a personal level and a business level, there's always going to be challenges, and there's always going to be things that turn things on their head. And I think sometimes the more of those you go through, the more that you learn that you're just going to have to address and face these head on when they come. And I remember one of the first times I was having a really, really tough time in my personal life. And I just literally was like, I can't go on. I don't know how I'm going to get up and get on with this. And somebody said to me, wise words, this too shall pass. And
Hmm.
like, this person has no empathy or sympathy or understanding towards me. And I was really cross with somebody very close to me. And I felt that they were being a bit flippant towards me. And when I came out the other side of that, I looked back and I was like, oh my goodness, that person was so true, so right in what they said. Sorry, in terms of, you know, those words. And I actually apply that now. So when things are getting really tough in terms of, for instance, now, back in March, this year has been extremely tough. This is going to pass. It will pass. And I look back at this, I suppose it's about managing myself in the interim. So making sure that my mind is clear as best I can. And I suppose that going for walks, be it, at the minute I can't play badminton, but badminton was my thing. Going to the gym, whatever it is that I can do to try and, keep myself focused and grounded, and just to remind myself that it will pass, and it does. And I think as long as you kind of, if it's a problem and if it's a challenge, that you address it, don't run away from it. Address,
Hmm.
the sooner you address it, the sooner you can, get a solution towards that, and then you can move forward, but it will pass.
Yeah, I know, and it's kind of like people saying, "Oh, could be worse." Nearly when people say something like that, so they're like, "You don't understand what I'm going through here." But at the same time, I know I've looked back and thought, like, I've came through that, and even when you come through bad things, you kind of think, "Well, if I got through that, I can get through this, I can get through anything, nearly." So it makes you stronger. You know what you can do, that type of stuff. I remember even when I did, and it's not even it's a bad thing or whatever, but I did triathlon. I did like 43K or whatever. And then every time we had a workout at the gym and they were like, oh, it's 20 minutes, I'd be like, well, I did 4 hours. I can do 20 minutes. Do you know? And I always kind of kept that mindset when it came to business as well. When things happen, even personal stuff, when it happens as well, I kind of think, well, I've come through worse, and I'm still here. And, I might be.
I think it's life lessons, and we all have to go through that and experience that, and you certainly have to experience that from a business point of view. And in particular, for me, it was a big learning role. As I said, I grew up in the business, granted, but I went off and I trained as a chartered accountant, and I came back, and all of a sudden there's 70 staff looking at you for an answer, and there's a strategy to be developed, there's accounts to be looked at, there's sales and marketing to be, a plan to be developed, and there's and you've customers, so there's a lot of things you're juggling there, and people and different things. And I think just the key thing for me is that you keep your head up and remember that you can address the problem, find a solution, and remember it will pass, and you will be okay.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose on the flip side of that as well, if you see a manager of a hotel run around and you're trying to give out to them about something, maybe just remember all the other stuff they're trying to deal with as well. Because it can be easy to, give out to someone and you don't, even like people who own the business or whatever, you always want to speak to them, but they're actually dealing with the most of everything. So, just if you're in a hotel, be nice to the managers, just gonna laugh along.
It's
Um,
a difficult job. It's certainly
yeah,
not plain sailing, but it's also very diverse and what makes it really enjoyable as well. So, and there's a
yeah,
four good moments and bad, so that's
yeah, definitely.
worth it.
That's it. So if you could pick like a mistake that you made that you would tell others not to do, so like something like not having a strategy or something like that, if someone was thinking about going into either just their own business or the hotel industry, is there anything you'd be like, here's what I did and here's what not to do? I know I have like 300 of
Oh,
those, probably
there's
more.
things running through my head here. I'm like, oh goodness. I think probably one of the biggest ones is to let go of control a little bit. I talked about all the amazing people that I hired and had around me and that I still have around me. And it took me a long time to allow them to do their job without me micromanaging. And
Hmm.
that comes to the detriment of them and it comes to the detriment of you because I suppose you're making it enjoy. They're not going to enjoy the experience either on the basis that you've hired them to do something and then you're nearly stand on top of them. And I think it allows you then to, like we just talked about earlier on, to focus on the things that you can do, be that strategy, be it in my case maybe it's finance or whatever it is that you are good at, and allow them to do their jobs. And it's amazing how it all comes together. It took me
Hmm.
4 or 5 years to do that. I'm ashamed to say, but it did. I kept saying, no, 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 I've stepped back now. I've stepped back. I've stepped back. But then I hadn't really stepped back. And as a result, then, I suppose it's to the detriment just basically of everybody, including the customer in that point of view as well, because you're not sticking to your own plan. The plan that you want to get to is going to slow down because you cannot be all things to all men. And
Yeah.
that is something that just took me an awful long time to to understand and to let go. And then as a result of that, then leading into the next point is don't burn yourself out. Okay, so me doing that, I was burning myself out and it ended up that I was in hospital. So what happens then when I burnt out both mentally and physically? Because in a hotel it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it is on, you're performing all the time. And there you have to have an outlet, you have to have your downtime, you have to be able to close the door and be almost non-contactable and trust people that are there to do the job. And when something's your own and this, Emma, you kind of feel that, oh well, I'm not there, it's not going to be done the way that I want it to be done. And you have to people, you give them the training, you give them the opportunity to come back and speak to you when they need to, but you have to let go because it ends up to again back to the same point. It's to the detriment of the business, the staff that you have employed, and to yourself. So
Yeah.
that was the biggest. It was. Now I take my days off. I like badminton's my outlet. That's the thing that I would have done in the evenings, like in the wintertime in particular. I go to the gym, I go out for dinner. Now I didn't even want to go out in the village to for my dinner and things. I was like, oh, people would be like, why is she off? Why does she have a shouldn't be, she should be in there? And I used to take it so personally. People would say, no, are you not working today? And I was like, well, I was getting really defensive. And I was like, well, I've just been in there, all these times and not realizing that people are just, trying to support you. They want to see your business doing well, but you can't, I suppose, achieve that when you're in there all the time and you're burnt out because you can't think clearly.
Hmm. And then if you're not giving control to other people when you do have to leave, or when you do, let's say you do get sick or whatever, they can't take over because you haven't given them the control in the first place. So it's just like cycle, 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 completely. But I think it's like words don't teach. It's nearly like you have to go through it to realize it doesn't work to then go, okay, I'm going to stop doing this because it's craziness.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that like you're probably told a million times, so until you actually like go through the process, then you're like, okay, I'm going to stop doing this because it's actually craziness. And even just when I know I'd be the same, I'd be like, oh, I felt like I needed to work 24 hours a day, or like, and let people know, I just did a full day there and I'm not home till 1 o'clock in the morning, and that makes me, in business and really busy and really, successful at this thing. And now I'm like, I'll happily tell people I don't take calls on Mondays. Just
Mm-hmm.
don't do it, because and I think with COVID as well, a lot of people are getting into that. Like they realized that they were going so fast and they had to stop and they were like, what was I doing that for? Like, why was I going, Because at the end, you're not going to, I always say this, like when let's say I want to go see my nephew or something, I'm like, am I going to say in 30 years, I'm really glad I worked that day, or I'm really glad I seen him? Do you know? Though that's how I kind of define it in my head.
Perspective, you have to, and I think that's possibly for me. I was just everything was so work orientated, and I was like pushing everything else aside, and that's no good to you either. We all need our own personal space and a little bit of downtime for us, and whatever that is.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And in your own way, like you say, badminton, I would go for a run or whatever. I think the like exercise thing is super important when it comes to running your own business because it's 1 hour of just like hitting a ball or doing whatever where you don't have to think about emails or what, your head isn't somewhere else. I'm like, how many burpees can I do rather than geez, I better reply to that email or whatever it is because you're always on, like you say. Um, so, like, with all that, do you still have fears when it comes to the business? Like, what would be your biggest fear when it comes to running that whole thing?
I suppose failing and being fourth generation, there's a big legacy that is gone ahead of me. And, there is pressure on my shoulders, not from anybody, not from my parents, but it's probably pressure I put on myself. And that's
Yeah.
because I want to succeed. And I suppose that's maybe part of the reason that I did probably burn myself out at the beginning and didn't want to let go of control because I was so afraid. And that's just my personality type. I think it's I'm a high achiever. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I want everything, everything to be in unison, correct, all within a line. And I think, you soon learn that that isn't always going to be the way, and um, I think for me, failure, I suppose, and that's just completely honest, it's a difficult thing to say, but I suppose that is, one of my biggest fears and something that would crush me a lot, I would say, if that was to happen.
I know, and it's I think it's a very Irish thing as well that like, in America if you have four failed business, you're an amazing entrepreneur, do you know? Where in Ireland it's like, oh, it didn't work out for you. And it is, and you get that feeling kind of, and you do wanna, you nearly fake it just to make it look like you're still going, completely. Like it would be, and even just the amount of work you've put in, the amount of time you've put into it for that to go down. But as well, I always think there's never really a failure. There's always just a pivot. You do something else, you change it to something else, you move it to something else. But if, like, let's say you had to close the doors tomorrow because everything went tits up, it would be horrible. But I don't think you're the kind of person who's going to allow that to happen. I think failure happens when you allow it nearly and not being bad about anybody that's failed, but you're letting it go yourself because you couldn't be bothered anymore or because whatever. Um, but I think that's probably the number one thing, fear of nearly everybody, but not everyone will say it out loud either, do you know?
Um, Honestly,
Sarah G. Gallagher said, it's a pleasure to listen to Ashley, wise words and advice from a strong and resilient businesswoman. There you go, lovely. Very nice, Ashley. Um, so just we're nearly actually at the end here, would you believe it or not? It's like five to like time just flies when it comes to these. Um so the advice that you really live by, would it be the this too will pass, or is it something else that really
it's definitely, I definitely live by that bit of a think. The other kind of couple of things for me would be true to yourself.
mm,
Um, I think sometimes we all have this tendency to uh, sometimes put the facade up, and go out there, and in particular my job, you're performing, um, and I suppose there's always something, sometimes, that little voice that's inside your head, that little niggly thing that's bothering you or upsetting you or annoying you or whatever it is, and that we all have a tendency to push it away. I am a firm believer that, to be true to yourself and to give yourself the best peace of mind and freedom in your head and mind is to, allow that information, to, or address that problem basically that's there. There's always a solution to something. It mightn't be the solution that you want. And remember, again, as I said, this too shall pass, and
Yeah.
you will succeed and you will get through.
Yeah, definitely. A bit of like your gut feeling on things, like, if you feel like there's something wrong here, I kind of need to. I think we ignore that a lot, and we kind of do what we think we should be doing or what others are telling us to do completely. But it's like the best learning ever, run your own thing, isn't it? Because it's like you
Um,
have to become
I think the big
strong.
terms of and the business is, understanding, when you're dealing with so many people all the time, so you're dealing with all your staff and then you're dealing with customers, and everybody has a bad day. We all have bad days, and you know sometimes it's just your emotional intelligence needs to be switched on and quite high to be able to, appreciate and understand what, or see the situation for what it is rather than what the person's saying to you, almost, be that from staff or, from a customer point of view. And that comes from good and bad points, So I
Yeah.
think it's a difficult situation to be in sometimes, but it's certainly one that I've grown, and that role I've grown into, and my emotional intelligence, I suppose, has grown in the last 8 years as well, which I feel is a positive thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose when you and I were doing workshops as well, I think that really grows because you have to deal with 30 people, 30 different personalities, and you have to like rate that whole room and
Mhm.
like why are they feeling like this? Why aren't they paying attention? And I think it really hones your skills on that as well, kind of dealing with all those people in one room. But then obviously you're in your 70 staff, you've got all the learning you need there as well. Well, that's brilliant. So I have two more questions for you just before we finish up. One is if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
Good. Talk about awkward questions.
Well, I know.
Oh, a superpower. Well, if I had a superpower right now, I guess it would be the power to develop a vaccine that could be put in place right now and that was safe and that it was going to nobody at risk by having it. That we can kind of get things back to normal, and that there's been people so badly affected by this in so many different ways. From losing loved ones to people being very ill for long periods of time, and then obviously from a business point of view, it's just affecting so many people in so many different ways. And I think if we could get a quick fix to it, or if I could have a superpower to get a quick fix to it, that's what it would be.
Completely. Wouldn't that be amazing just to get back to kind of some kind of normality? And just before I let you go, so is there anything going on in the hotel that you want to tell us about? Any offers that are going on? I'll share it here after if you send me something. But anything how can people still, support you guys?
Okay, perfect. So I suppose the biggest offer coming up at the moment is the Christmas in a box. So I suppose we kind of developed this idea back in kind of it was September actually. It was actually just when we were starting to close down again. And we kind of felt that people this year have not had the opportunity, for, the luxury coming to them in terms of their eating. It's been a lot of home cooking. I know myself, I'm fed up of cook
Yeah.
our hands, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Mhm.
And so we decided to do Christmas in a box, which is a 3-course Christmas Day menu, and it's going to be fully prepared. For everybody, it's €35 per person, and basically it's your Christmas dinner prepared for you, and you pick
Amazing.
Christmas Eve, so it'll be late Christmas Eve, sorry, so like about 6 o'clock, and then it's all ready for you for Christmas Day.
Wow, lovely. How handy. So you've plenty of time then just to drink and stuff. You don't have to cook anything.
But I think we allow, the hopefully now families coming together again. This was developed when we were at a point where we didn't really know what was going to happen. But I think, hopefully now that when families and households are able to get together, maybe take the hassle out of the cooking, we all, yourself, when families get together Christmas Day, we all have a job, and then it turns into,
Mhm.
in our house, my mum's always giving out, you're not doing that right. So it just might take the hassle and the stress out of, all of that for everyone.
Amazing, amazing. So I'll share that here as well, and I'll give a link to Arnold's Hotel, so go and follow them. Thank you so much, Ashley. That's been brilliant. And even by all the comments, you can see loads of people are really inspired by what you're saying, and I'm always inspired by you. I have been since day
Uh,
one, so it's really great to have you on.
to have me on, I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks so much, and have a good weekend.
Thank you. All right, you too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.